All right, so this week is classroom management, and the learning goal is that after this lecture, my hope is that you understand classroom management is not something you work on in isolation, but part of a larger plan involving engaging and empowering lesson plans, routines, and procedures, and the classroom culture. Now, with or without technology, classroom management is all about routines, procedures, and engagement or empowerment. I cross out the engagement because engagement really just means that kids are excited about learning, but empowerment means that students want to go on and continue carrying the learning on their own, that they're self sustaining learners. So, for students to be actively engaged or empowered in the classroom, there needs to be a safe environment where they feel confident in themselves. Kids have to know that they're coming into a room and that they're going to be excited and that they're going to be excited about the learning and that they can actually do the learning. So the days are gone of lectures. Not sure if sleepy or just really boring class. Can I please be excused for the rest of my life? Yes, we sit through classes and we feel that. I feel it. I have felt it. You possibly feel it right now. Or you might also be thinking, tries to be cool by going over boring classroom procedures using memes. Um, don't matter how doesn't matter how you try and present it. If it's boring, it's boring. And the goal is to move away from you doing the learning and presenting to the students actually doing the learning and the presenting. Now I'm going to start out with this little piece here, and this is what we talk about the achievement gap, or we're going to say that this is what your regular classroom looks like. And typically, in your regular classroom, when you're teaching and lecturing, there's about 5 kids who, or 5% of your kids, are able to go in and learn everything just by you talking. Then you got about another 10 or so kids who you can work with a little bit extra, or just talking to their friend or neighbor will help them move over the hump. Then you got this group of kids here who you can help support with like small groups and move them along. Then this group here never really makes it out of that section, and they kind of fall behind. Now, this is important with classroom management because typically you're going to see a lot of good behaviors here in this section, and a lot of behavior problems are going to come out here. And the reason they're going to come out here is because these kids are going to be the ones that are pretty much being left behind. Some of them will happen here because you'll have some kids who get bored and maybe don't want to follow along. But typically this is how it'll be distributed in class. Now, when I talk about engaging and empowering students, it's important that you recognize that with technology, we can do a lot of things in our class that weren't possible before. And what I mean by that is rather than you just lecturing, you can bring in other engaging activities such as stop motion. And what I've noticed is that I'll have a new 5 to 10 kids who show up in this spot. You can bring in something like having kids do presentations, being able to share. Uh, you can bring 3D models into the fold and have kids sharing using 3D models. But what this does is rather than just having 5 kids who are super who are able to understand the work, 10 of them who are almost there, you're opening the field and you're bringing in a lot more kids through teaching through different methods. Now, what does that have to do exactly with classroom management and engagement and empowering learners? Well, if you see these projects here, I'm not going to go through all the projects, but these were projects that students actually created in my class, and some of the students in the classes they were students that had real behavior issues. But when I got them into creating these projects, it brought them into the educational fold and helped them be more successful than they had been before. So this one here, we did it for language arts in 6th grade. This here was another project that was done for a different essay in language arts. This was repairing an iPad, and this was done for a different essay in language arts. And then this was creating 3D models, and that was done for a totally separate essay in language arts. Again, the point is, rather than me standing up and lecturing to the kids, trying to keep them engaged, it was all about me trying to. It was all about making sure that I'm teaching the students different technologies that can help them, cover the what they're interested in, and then apply it to the actual learning. and that makes a bigger difference for classroom management than just standing up there again and lecturing or having some videos. Now, how can we actually model these expectations? So this is part of a this is part of a film festival that we did for kids, and the best way to model expectations is to have the kids actually view what those expectations are supposed to look like, and better yet, have them model them with you.
Hey, my name is Mr. Gonzalez, and you might remember me from such classrooms as Room 24 or even teaching language arts. Today we're going to be going over some of the film festival etiquette, such as lining up, walking to the show, clapping, and leaving the show. Oh goodness, they actually got in line. I can't believe that worked. Now, let's see what you are not supposed to look like. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, and that's definitely not the way you walk down the hallway.
Now that is how you're supposed to walk into the cafeteria. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Which brings me to clapping. Make sure you have a good solid clap, but don't bring too much attention to yourself.
It's going down for real. It's going down for real. And now, let it go. Oh my God, I'm gonna be fired. Oh, the film festival's ruined. Oh.
All right, so that was a video that we created, and we actually created it with all the students in order to model the expectations in a film festival that we were making. And again, what is more engaging to the student? What is more empowering to the student to actually be a part of a video where they're going to model and share and act out and and be kids, or would it have been more successful to stand up in front of the class, say, you're going to get in line, you're going to be quiet, you're going to clap when I ask you to clap. And it's a no-brainer, really, again, when we're talking about classroom management. Kind of a low-key, low-budget, easier way to do it would be this video. It's just a video that I found on the internet. You can check it out if you like, but it's pretty much the same concept. And this one, teachers are acting kind of like the students and showing what the good behaviors are. You could just think that in your class, you can do that with your own students. Something else that's important when it comes to actually the classroom management is that you're teaching to multiple modalities, and by multiple modalities, I mean that you're not just teaching to one specific type of learner. You're not teaching to the kids who are auditory learners. You're teaching to the kids that are maybe kinesthetic learners, meaning that they have hands-on parts to the lesson. Kids that are visual learners, meaning that they can actually see what you're explaining, and kids that are artistic as well. So this was a lesson on argumentative thesis. So let's see. Definition: persuading others that an idea is right or wrong. If I agreed with you, we would both be wrong. Let's see. So common mistakes: a paper lacks focus. So here I'm introducing kids to a thesis. Carlton Banks is a bad dancer. He has no moves. He dances goofy, and he is a nerd.
Me neither. Gee, Oprah, I really like that diamond bracelet.
Nice try. Hey, I tell you what, I'll see you guys on the show. Okay? See you on TV. Have a good show.
Thank you.
Now, what this does is if I'm sitting there and I'm explaining a thesis and I'm reading it right out of the book, you can imagine that the kids aren't very engaged. Now, when I'm sharing a video of a funny scene from an old TV show, the kids are laughing along. The kids can see what it's all about, and they can relate to the actual lesson that much more. That cuts back on my classroom management rather than sitting there and telling kids to be quiet or writing names down on the board. So then here I go into the actual thesis. I say Carlton Banks is one of the greatest ever TV dancers because he has smooth moves and an awesome style. And again, I could have introduced the thesis using an abstract topic, maybe using a book that most of the kids didn't understand or didn't enjoy. But I chose something that would be funny, that would be humorous, something that the students can relate to. Then I showed them another video where Carlton is dancing, and he's a pro. You can check these out later if you want on your own. But what we went from there is we actually made a little chart. You always want kids to kids should never be sitting there just watching. You also want them writing. So here they got examples from the movie clip. His smooth moves. He moves his legs like rubber. He does the moonwalk. His awesome style. He has a Michael Jackson style, a prep dance, a tap dance. And then once the kids went on from taking these notes, they went on and they picked their own favorite movies, and using their own movies, they created their own thesis. Now, again, how does this affect classroom management? Well, it affects classroom management because you're reaching out to the style that every kid is able to learn from. But more importantly, you're engaging them, you're empowering them to go on and to be able to use their skills through the lesson in a meaningful way. So that's the gist of this presentation. And again, I hope that this helps you understand. Let me go back here. This helps you understand that classroom management it's not just about writing names on the board. It's not just about having a seating chart. It's part of engaging lesson plans, empowering lesson plans, routines, procedures, and creating a classroom culture that students want to be in.